Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Pelvic Floored podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking to Katie Lyon, registered occupational therapist who has some amazing online resources for kids. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
We're so happy to have you. So, Katie has had a passion for working with kids ever since occupational therapy school, where she was able to work with some life skills and sped life skills classes. She got her degree in health and exercise science from Colorado State University. What's your mascot at Colorado State?
The Ram.
Go Rams!
Yep.
And then she went on to get her master's degree in occupational therapy at Texas Tech. She has 8 years of experience as an OT, and she moved up to the Mountain West where I live in 2018 and has been working in clinics and schools, but lately has started her own practice, Kids in Bloom Occupational Therapy. I'm so excited for this. She aims to provide services and resources to all children in the Valley, especially those that might need some services that are kind of not available in between school times. So, Katie, this is so exciting. Tell us a bit about yourself and how this business came to be, and especially about how you came to offer these online courses.
Yeah. As through my years of working as an OT, the biggest thing that keeps coming up is self-regulation. Parents, teachers, like all the different settings I've worked in, people are always coming to me for help with that. And when I have a kid who needs that sort of help, but doesn't have any like motor deficits or difficulties with ADLs, they don't qualify for occupational therapy. So I've been looking to try to like find a way to bridge the gap to where there can be services available to those kiddos and the parents, even if it's not actually direct occupational therapy services.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. And
yeah.
and what does that mean? Like self-regulation? Like I feel like I need that. Like
Yeah, everybody needs it. So self-regulation, self-regulation is the ability to control and to manage your emotions and then your behavioral responses that you have because of those emotions.
okay.
Some kids may have a hard time with once they become upset, not being able to manage that and come back from it, which could, you know, which could present as like a big meltdown, or it could be, anger, and maybe some more aggressive behaviors. And even though, you'll hear people say, like, oh, well, you can't help how you feel, there are things that you can do to manage your emotions that you do feel.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's like almost for like all kids, not just kids are in a special ed program, right?
yeah, it's for all kids. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
all adults too, really. Like,
Yeah, that
everybody, needs to be able to regulate, but for some kids it's harder than others. And for some reason, and I don't know if it's, COVID related or if it's just maybe like this day and age and how kids are spending their time. But for whatever reason, self-regulation is becoming like a more difficult thing for kids than it
huh.
used to be.
That's so
Um,
fascinating.
so I Yeah, so I feel like there's, more and more people coming to me all the time for help on it because OTs tend to be pretty good at working on self-regulation just because we're looking at the whole child and kind of taking a
Yeah.
holistic approach.
Yeah. And like
Um,
can you give me an example? Like let's say I came to you and with my child and who was having these difficulties. Like what's one thing that you might do with the child and me when we're there with you together?
Yeah. So the first thing I do, it's kind of funny because I would say a question that I get a lot is like, hey, like my kid, cannot control their emotions. Should I get him like a weighted vest or something? Right. And people think of OTs as like they have all these like cool special sensory tools out there. But the first thing when someone comes to me and asks something like that, I'm
Uh,
like, I mean, maybe like if we try all of these other things and nothing else works, then maybe we'll look at some sensory tools to see if it's sensory related.
uh-huh.
But the best thing that we can do for kids with self regulation is to set them up for success.
Ah,
So a lot of that has to do with consistency, routines, the way that we talk to them. Sometimes it means like using visuals depending on the age of the kid.
mm.
But yeah, there's kind of like a whole list of really easy to implement strategies that we go through first.
That's so cool. So it's not just like I drop off my child and go do my thing. I'm there and I'm learning these strategies as well, right?
Exactly. So that's what my regulation coaching is, because I really need to be able to coach the parent as well, so that these things are being implemented on a daily basis. Now,
That,
if your kiddo qualifies for occupational therapy with me, and maybe there's some more like sensory processing issues going on, then it might be you drop them off with me for their OT session and I have you come in during the last 10 minutes. Um,
okay.
and we go over things. But if it's more, a kid that doesn't qualify for OT with other deficits and just needing help with the self regulation, then it is mostly coaching with the parent.
That's so cool. We're going to have to do like a whole nother specific podcast just on self-regulation, but I wanted to touch on,
Yes,
the three main things that you offer. So you've got your self-regulation coaching, handwriting, and then summer camp. So handwriting,
yes,
why is this needed? Tell me about this.
yes. So that's another thing, like with self regulation, where I was saying for whatever reason, there's more and more kids. Um, That's also happening with handwriting too.
Huh.
There's more and more kids that are struggling to learn handwriting. And I will say my theory is it is partly screen time and less like playing outside and moving their bodies, I think is what this is related to. But yeah, there's just like so many kids that are struggling with learning handwriting. And a lot of times I test them at school and they don't test low enough with some underlying specific deficit to receive occupational therapy.
Mhm.
Yet, a lot of the skills that I have in my toolbox can help them with learning handwriting.
That's so neat. That's
So
so
that
cool.
was yeah, so that's kind of, one of those services that I'm offering to help bridge that gap between the kids that don't qualify for OT but could still use, some help from my skill set.
Totally. So if I'm a parent, I think I can see some of the signs that like my kid might need and I might need some of the sensory regulation training. What are some cues with handwriting? Like, is it just messy handwriting? Is it like little handwriting, big handwriting? Like, wow, how would I know that my kid might benefit from your services?
Right. So some of the things you can look at are reversals. So like reversing B and D, P
Mm,
and Q, things like that. That's pretty normal through the end of second grade. So if your kid is younger than third grade, I wouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, they have reversals. We need to do something.
mhm.
But if they're third grade or older, then yeah, we shouldn't be seeing so much of that anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and then also like sizing, like again, that depends on age. So like kindergarteners should be writing really big and they shouldn't necessarily understand how to fit their letters within like dotted line paper super well. But once we're getting into first and second grade, if they still seem to just not understand how letters should fit into the lines spatially,
Hmm.
then that's something that I can help with.
That is so cool. And then this school readiness camp that you're offering,
Yeah.
is that like the whole shebang then? What is this?
Yes. So I have to say that the School Readiness Camp is my favorite service that I'm offering right now, mostly because Preschoolers are like my favorite people in the world. Um, but yeah, so kids, in order to kind of be ready to enter kindergarten, they need to have some regulation skills to where they're able to sit and participate, managing emotions a little bit. We're going to be around a lot of other kids and have a lot of interaction. So we want kids to have a little bit of that skill and not be having like meltdowns or things like that. And then there's some underlying visual motor skills that we want kids to have to know that they're ready to like learn their letters and learn how to write.
Okay. So this is like kind of when we see school readiness, it's really kindergarten readiness or
Yeah,
not. Okay.
or preschool. So my camp is open to 3.5-year-olds to 5-year-olds. And I'm keeping the numbers low. And so that way I'm able to kind of have the kids in groups. And if it's kids who are going to enter kindergarten in the fall, we might work on, one thing. And if it's kids that are a little bit younger, we'll simplify that a little bit for them.
That is so cool, Katie. That is so cool. Now, with the camps specifically, how long are they?
So it is a short camp. So I've got 2 different weeks offered,
Mhm.
and for each week they're Monday, Wednesday, Friday afternoons from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m.
That's awesome. And in the summer of 2023, this is going to be your first time offering this. I'm so excited. Do you have your dates picked for that already?
Yes. So it is. Let me look at my calendar here really quick. So it is the week of June 19th and then the week of June 26th.
That's awesome. And are they all day camps? Like how many hours a day are the kids going to be there on those Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays?
So they'll just be there those 3 hours in the afternoon from
Oh,
1 to 4.
awesome, awesome. I know you said that earlier, but forgive me. My coffee is
That's
not
okay.
done yet. So we'll do
It's early on a Saturday.
we'll do some memory training with Dr. Kelly after this. Don't worry,
Yeah.
Paul. Now, you mentioned some of your other services, specifically the sensory integration. The parents were a little bit more involved. With this preschool and kindergarten readiness camp, like are the parents expected to be there? Is it a drop-off camp? How does that work?
So it is a drop-off camp. But what I'm gonna do is like touch base with each parent by the end of the week to give them like, here's some observations that I had, and maybe, if there's certain things that that kid could work on throughout the rest of the summer to help them get ready for kindergarten or preschool,
That's
kind of
awesome.
give the parents that list as
That is
well.
so cool. And I know as a mom, like it gets really overwhelming. So I feel like that additional bit of you being like, hey, work on these things, like can be so helpful rather than the parent just trying to like Google it on their own. Oh,
Yeah, I think too, like, if you Google getting a kid ready for kindergarten, what Google tells you is like much higher skills than developmentally where a 5-year-old should be.
okay.
So Google might tell you like they need to know the whole alphabet, be able to identify every letter, write their name, and, realistically, that's not, they're going to learn those things in kindergarten.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and so I do think that would be really overwhelming, and it can help to have somebody who's worked in the school system that can say, really, here's, the 3 or 4 things that you could focus on.
Totally. No, I think that's such a value. Now, speaking of value, the $1 million question, how much do all these services cost? The sensory integration work, the handwriting, and then the summer camps.
Yeah, okay, so the summer camps cost 120 for the week.
Mhm.
And that camp, with having the 2 weeks, it is open for a kid to attend both weeks. I actually have one signed up right now that's planning to do that. And
Awesome.
we're going to work on the same skills both week, but like I'll change the themes a little bit so that anyone attending both weeks isn't doing the same thing both
Yeah,
times,
that's so
you
awesome.
know.
I want to go. I I tried to write something in cursive the other day, Katie. Oh my gosh, like it's terrible.
Oh,
I'm like, I
well,
really
none of
do.
us use cursive anymore.
Oh.
It's yeah.
So you can have additionally maybe when the school's in session, you can have a cursive camp for grown-ups.
Yeah. I've got one client already, so
Sorry.
but yeah, so that's the school readiness camp. And then my handwriting tutoring, the pricing on that depends on whether you're wanting your kid to just work one-on-one with me or whether you're open to them being in a pair or a group. So I do
Great.
kind of,
That's awesome.
decrease the pricing for those situations.
Great.
And then
And
for,
what's the range?
actual
Like the actual range
yeah,
of that
so
ish.
yeah, so the one-on-one sessions are $40 and that's 40 or 45 minutes.
Okay.
And so that would be like the high range. And then the
Mhm.
groups, depending on how many kids end up in the group, could be as low as $15 per session.
That's
Um,
awesome. That's really great. That kind of brings it, makes it
yeah,
affordable to a place where these kids can really get some good help. Cool.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the handwriting tutoring, and
Mhm.
then the regulation coaching. I'm hesitant to say a price on that today because I'm
Totally.
changing my program a
Yep.
little bit right now.
No problem.
So
And
so
that
we'll
one,
come back to that.
that sounds great. And that's the one that you said too, like occasionally if a child actually has some larger deficits, they could potentially qualify for partial reimbursement through insurance. So I feel like that's almost one that we should just have them
Yes.
contact you regardless.
Exactly. And that's a thing where, yeah, if they had, if they came to me because of regulation, but I noticed that there's other deficits, then they could qualify for actual occupational therapy with me. And
That's
that's
so cool,
where
Katie.
insurance might come in.
Katie, that's
So,
so cool. Well, you've sold me. I want to sign up for everything. How do I sign up?
so sign up is just on my website, which is kidsinbloomot.com.
Woo!
And if anyone had, questions or wanted to reach out to me to find out more information before signing up, they could always email me. And that's kidsinbloomot@gmail.com.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I love it, Katie. And right now you still have a
Thanks.
few slots open for the summer of 2023's camp.
Yes. So I think for that first week, I want to say there's only one slot open right
Oh my
now.
gosh, sign up,
But
fan.
for the Yeah, and then for that second week, there's about 3 or 4 left.
That's so
So,
exciting. Well, I'm so
um,
proud of you. And just to increase the awareness of these services is
thank
so
you.
vital. Is there anything else that you offer that you wanted to mention today?
I think we went over all of the services that I offer.
Ah,
So,
I love it. I love it. Well, Katie Lyon, registered occupational therapist, specialist in childhood development, handwriting extraordinaire. Thank you so much for being here. We'll have a link to your website underneath this in some way. If you're watching this on Insta, there'll be something in the link tree. If you're watching it on YouTube or the podcast, it'll be in the show notes. So thanks for being here, Katie.